Hey, self-storage. Welcome to episode number 76 of Gabfocus, the place where we learn how to run our storage business better. Today, I've got a fantastic guest. It's going to be really honestly a rowdy time. It's just going to be Brad and I today. Melissa wishes everyone the best. She will be back next month. We're going to wish her the best of what she's got going on today. But today is about choosing the right management fit. Something I always like to think about is not every storage facility is the same. Not every market is the same. Not every even building, not every storage building is the same. And so you got to really figure out what's best for you and your business, best for you and your customers and the team. So without much more ado, Brad North, welcome. 36 years in the industry. When Brad entered self-storage, there were 6,500 facilities. We got to be cracking 60,000 now. So because of Brad's help, this industry went from 6,500 to 60 plus thousand in
Yes.
36 years, which is incredible. And for almost 2 decades, Brad was hitting the pavement and speaking at conferences, speaking at trade shows, really getting the education out there. He is the CEO and founder of Advantage Consulting and Management. Welcome to the stage, friend. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Tommy. I really appreciate it. It's great to be with you and the StoragePug team and Gabfocus. I appreciate you having me.
We're really glad to have you. So beyond the numerical stats about you, give the audience a 30-second intro. Who is Brad North really?
Oh, wow. Brad North. I've been in the industry, as Tommy said, for 36 years. Went to the Ohio State University, graduated in 1982. I'm showing my age a little bit, but it's been a fun journey. I was in the corporate world for about 7 years and then got into self-storage in 1989, built my first location, general contracted it. I left my corporate job. Everybody thought I was crazy. They were like, what are you thinking? You have a great corporate job, you're making good money, and you're going to build a what? A self-storage facility. Who's going to rent a storage unit in 1989? So I left my corporate job. I literally general contracted it, Tommy. I ran it. I raised all the money for it. And I literally broom swept out the units every day. I rented the units. I collected the money. I did whatever it took to make that happen. And, everything else is history. I've been in the business, for what, 36 years now, and built multiple locations, own a management company, and it's been a fun ride for
That's
sure.
incredible. I love let's just leave a cushy corporate job. Let's tell the family, my friends, I'm gonna go do this thing. They're kind of like garages, they're kind of like sheds, but people will come. I promise
I,
you.
Tommy, I was pretty serious with my wife. We were dating at the time.
Okay.
Met my in-laws for the first time. They came down from northern Ohio to southern Ohio, and I was so excited to show them the piece of ground I was going to build on. And they both looked at each other when I took them out there. I would shine the light up onto the property, and they kind of looked at each other, thinking he's going to leave this really great corporate job to do what? Is what they were thinking. But now they're partners with me in some of the facilities, and it's been
Wow.
it's been a fun journey.
I would say they and you made the right decisions. Well, we're glad to have you here. What a story. And actually, honestly, in the chat, y'all, tell us what your story is, how you got into self-storage. I always love to see how people find their ways here because we're all no, I don't think many of us, most of us, it'd be weird if you did, grew up and was like, self-storage.
Yeah,
That's you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go to college or not go to college. I'm going to self-storage all the way. Most of us, that's not our paths.
yeah.
So would love to see in the chat there. So Sherry asked, what was it called? What was in 1989 when you started? Was it Advantage branded at that time or?
It was B&D self-storage for Brad and Denny, my brother.
Ah,
It was the two of us.
there you go.
He was a silent partner. I pitched a business plan to him. He bought it, and we invested equally in it. And he said, I want you to run it. I don't want to have anything to do with the operations. And I ran it. And when I got married to Karen, she left her corporate job to run it. I went to work for a developer and raised enough money to build a second location.
I love that. I
So, and we're
love that.
bringing
Look,
it out.
Brad and Denny Storage. Let's go. I always think it's bold when I see business names with just the first name. And you did it. You're one of those bold people because I can't. What if I, you know what I mean? Like I can imagine seeing a sign that says like Tommy's website business or like Matt Richard Tommy software. You know what I mean? But I freaking love that. Jaden said he was married into it.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Very
right.
much so. Well, Brad, this is going to be a fun conversation. I'm so stoked to have you. Gabfocus brought to you by our teams here at StoragePug and Lighthouse Storage Solutions. At StoragePug, we build websites for the industry. We work with 2,500 facilities all across the U.S. Many folks in the audience, I see it and I love. And of course, Brad, as big, is a big part of the Pug Pack as well. And Lighthouse Storage Solutions will do all of your drone photography, consulting, auditing, all the above. So Gap Focus set up this way. If this is your first episode, honestly and frankly, you chose a really fun one to pick. We're gonna go for about an hour. I've got questions. Brad's got answers. You might have questions too, and I want you to ask them in the Q&A tool down below. I'm going to be monitoring those, and as it slots and as it fits into the conversation, we'll get them in. So today's agenda. We're going to actually, Brad's going to help us break down the different types of management styles. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of each of these. Like I said in the intro, not all facilities are built the same. Not all markets are built the same. And then ultimately, as an operator, as an investor, or as a developer, how do I find the right fit for me? Brad, are you ready to jump right into this?
I'm ready, Tommy. Let's go.
Let's do it. So, give me the high level breakdown of the different management styles, right? So, I'll give you some of the terms that the industry is kind of throwing out there, right? So, the different methods are like owner operator, on-site manager, remote. Us break down the different styles and methods that you see out there. So because go down that list there and break that down for us. Give us the definition of each type of management style.
Yeah, there's so many different ways, Tommy, and you touched on it. The beauty of our business is you can build it and really have different types of style of building, but you could also have different styles of operating. And in the almost 25 years of consulting, 20 years of speaking, I've seen it done so many different ways. You have the owner operator. It's the owner who likes to literally get in and run their own location. And that's wonderful. And I've seen a lot of owners that get in the trenches. They want to be hands-on. And that's one approach to operating a facility. Another would be hiring a third-party management company. Maybe you're a developer and you don't want to be bogged down with the operations, or maybe you're an owner and you feel like you're not operating it to the level of where you want to operate it. So you hire a third-party management company. That's another way of operating. I've seen a lot of facilities that do kind of a hybrid, where, it might be kind of fully automated, but they may have somebody kind of float in and out. They may have somebody, partially on site. Maybe they staff it part-time. It's kind of a hybrid between automation and having a little bit of personnel there. And then the hub and spoke, like you mentioned, something that's a little bit more centralized. Maybe you have one location that's kind of a central hub, and then you have spokes, which are the facilities out. Maybe they're smaller, maybe they're automated. Maybe they have some personnel floating in to make sure they do security checks, that they keep the property looking clean. If they need to meet somebody there, they meet somebody there. But for the most part, it's probably, probably automated, where the customer can literally rent a unit right there without having somebody there. They may have a kiosk, or they may use their phone and rent a unit right from their phone. That's a good way to keep your labor costs down, keep your overall budget down. And you could build maybe the spokes could be maybe a little bit smaller, more cost effective, with a lot less in the way of expenses. And that would be a way you could make that happen. But the hub would be, they're going to handle like the HR functions, staffing, hiring, firing. They're going to handle like the payables, the receivables, so that everything's done out of kind of one central location.
I love that. So when you were, help us understand, right? So as a independent operator, B&D storage, right? Put yourself back into 1989. Which of these methods were you at that time? I mean, probably owner operator, right? You were sweeping units,
Yeah.
collecting payments. I mean, you're doing everything.
Yeah, as I mentioned, when I built my first location in 1989, I think I mentioned to you, I raised the money, I pitched it, I got turned down by 7 banks. I kept revising my business plan. Every time I got turned down, I would ask, is there something I can do differently in my business plan? I kept revising it, making it a little stronger. Finally got a bank to partner with me, went through all the entitlement process to build it, and then I general contracted it myself. And
Wow.
then once it was done, I wanted to understand the operational side of it. So I literally got in the trenches. I ran it as the owner. I ran my first facility and did everything. I mean, as an owner operator, I grinded it out and really learned so much from it. But I was a big believer back then, Tommy, even before I built my first location, I mystery shop probably 40 to 45 locations
Smart man.
to get a vision. You know, in the
Yeah.
scriptures, it says you will perish with a lack of vision. I'm all about vision and I'm all about knowledge. It says in the scriptures, you will be destroyed by a lack of knowledge. So I'm all about learning, and you never arrive in your learning. And so vision and learning and always adapting was always important to me. And that was really kind of from the get-go. But back then we didn't have, computers were sort of not a thing back then, right? I mean, they were massive, but so we did a lot of things. My wife was a buyer for a department store. So she was used to like the analytics, and it was all manual. So she helped me track things kind of manually, and everything was done for the most part back then manually. We didn't have
Wow.
management software really back then. So
Yeah.
we did what we could, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. You know, we learned the hard way, but it was a
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you walked to school uphill in the snow, up, down, uphill both ways.
yes, yes.
No, but I love the having that the instant that fundamental knowledge from day one of every facet, right? From the fundraising, the dealing with the bank, the entitlement, I mean, all of that is incredible, which it helps you speak to a lot of these issues and pain points that, again, as an independent operator, I'm probably dealing with, right? And by the way, y'all, I'm loving these origin stories. I just saw a whole new spurt of 25 people pop in on my screen here. Welcome to Gabfocus. I've got Brad Noor from Advantage here. He's talking to us about the different types of management and what might fit your operations. But I would love to hear your origin story, how you got started. Brad left a cushy job to decide to build his first storage facility in 1989, and the rest is history. So let's talk through owner operated versus third party management. And full disclosure, of course, Brad has done both and currently does both. He has his own facilities that they own and operate, but they also operate other investors' facilities under their third party management brand. Talk us through the difference in those two setups.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I think as an owner operator, I think that you've got to be hands-on. You know, you've got to be able to decipher what's working, what's not working. Are you tracking all the right things? Are you adapting to the market? Are you, as an owner operator, are you in touch with your competition on a regular basis? I mean, my managers do field trips, like literally every quarter, they're going out and visiting the competition and they're building relationships with them. I don't want it to be adversarial. So we're building relationships, but while we're there, we're taking a lot of mental notes of what their amenities look like compared to our amenities. And I believe that as an owner operator, you need to be hands-on like that and understand what differentiates me from my competitors.
Hmm.
What stands apart? And am I selling those differential advantages to my customers? If I have an organizational uniqueness, something that's unique about me, am I selling that? Am I conveying that to my customer? As an owner operator, you've got to be hands-on and you've got to be able to do those kind of things. And I've been doing this for a long time, and sometimes I see operators that are right on it. They understand it and they're very involved. They're in the business. So they're very involved in the business. And then I've seen other times where they're a little bit more hands off, where, they take a couple steps back. And sometimes what I find, not always, but sometimes what I find with an owner operator is that they feel good about their occupancy level. Oh, geez, I'm 96% occupied. I'm doing great. But when you really study the market, they might be the low price provider. Maybe
Mm.
they're not staying on top of the rate management side of it, or maybe they're not dialed into the SEO or the Google ads and all the marketing kind of things. And so I always encourage my clients that are owner operators, make sure you stay on top of this part of it. It's going to be really important. I would rather be 90% occupied and make more money than 96% occupied and make less money. And so, you know, we tend to be the price leader in most of our markets, and it's because of our people, our customer service, our sales, our SEO through StoragePug, our Google ads, all the things we do marketing wise, and our managers. Our managers are the biggest asset that we have, and we let them know that all the time. If you're an owner operator, you're the biggest asset by far of your store. And so you need to be in the business, you need to track and measure and make sure you make improvements along the way. We've gone through a lot of changes in our business. I went through the Persian Gulf War, Tommy. I don't even know if you were born. I went back in the early 90s. I was operating in the early 90s through the Persian Gulf War. I was
Wow.
operating in the 08 to 012 housing bust. I was operating through COVID. So we've been through a lot of ups and downs, and you've got to be able to adapt to the market. And so as an owner operator, I would encourage you to stay hands-on, be involved in the business, learn, you know, learn from Gabfocus, learn from conferences and mentors around you. I'm all about mentors. If you can find a mentor to pour into you, it's invaluable. So as an owner operator, just stay on top of those kind of things.
Incredible. I mean, the one big, if you take anything away, the one thing that you did before you got started in 1989 was you called 40, 50 different facilities to just see what's up, how they're managing, how they're running things, you know, what the things you can learn about how they see the industry, right? I love that you did that. I talk to a lot of new folks who are just getting into the business, and they haven't taken that step. And so if you're brand new, and I know some of y'all in this audience are brand new, you're looking to buy or build your first facility here. Now, of course, there are many folks who've been in the industry for many, many years. Yeah, I love that you did that when you got started. So talk us through then about third-party management. So I've done the owner-operator thing. Maybe, you know, I'm done sweeping units. I'm done looking at rent rolls. I'm done with walkthroughs. And I want to be able to you know, enjoy the fruits of my labor, maybe not in a facility, but on the beach. Talk us through third party management and what's the primary key points there.
So that's a great question. So I built my first location, went out, got married. My wife ran the business. I went to work for a developer, raised enough money over about a 3-year period to build a second location. And then a few years later, I built a third location. Still very much owner operator model. I was my own area manager at that point. I was staffing all my stores with managers in every one of those 3 stores. And then I would visit those stores every single day as kind of the area managers, because I wanted to learn that part of it. I wanted to take a step back, because sometimes when you're in the trenches that you kind of lose your big picture vision. I was so in the trenches for so long that I sort of lost my big picture. But when I stepped out kind of as the area manager, I started to see the bigger picture. And I knew that the kinds of things I wanted to do to let our facilities evolve, not only in the curb appeal of what we were doing, but in the way that we would operate. Shortly after the third location, we had an opportunity. I was consulting at that point. I was speaking, I was consulting, I was traveling all around. And I had an operator come to me. It was a large company. They hired me, Tommy, to evaluate their third-party management company. So I came on
Wow.
board as a consultant. It was a little bit of a conflict because I had trained all the third-party management companies managers. I came in and did a whole sales presentation. I did a sales training workshop. So I called the owner and I said, I'm kind of in a sticky situation. I've been asked to come on board as a consultant to evaluate you. But if you're uncomfortable with that, I can take a pass on it. And they're like, at the end of the day, they're going to hire somebody, and you know, that's fine. So they hired me. I went back. I did a presentation to the board of this. They were a apartment developer, and at the end of the day, they came back to me and said, "Would you take over these 7 locations?" It was a little bit
Wow.
awkward because of my client. I went to
Right.
my client. I said, I just want to get your, blessing on this because I don't want to do anything. Integrity is important to me. So I went back to him and they were like, we're fine with it because had rough waters anyway with them. So we're good with it. So we took them over. And what I found, that's when we really launched on a larger scale on the third-party management side. So I had to really beef up my staff, and fortunately I had some good managers in my locations, my 3 locations, and I was able to bring one of them out as an area manager. And then I brought on some corporate staff, and we began really the third-party management side of what we were doing back in 2004, just to give you an idea. What I found, Tommy, when we were doing that is I spent a lot of time in those stores, like interviewing all the managers and getting to know them. And every store was set up completely different. There was no consistency. You could go from one side of town and go to another, and it was completely a different level of service. All the offices were even completely set up differently. So I knew at that point we were going to lose some of the managers because they probably wouldn't be able to adapt, because we were all about tracking, measuring, accountability, expectation in a good way, creating culture that was a positive culture, but also work hard, play hard. If we're all going to work hard around here, but we're also going to have fun with what we do. So we did lose a lot of our managers. They've been around for a long, long time, and we're able to bring in fresh new managers. And at that point, we really started to put really good systems in place. We had no choice. So I think as a third-party management company, I think some of the things I would say is, if you're going to look for a third-party management company, look for one that not only can handle the day-to-day operations, the staffing, the hiring, they can handle all the auctions and lien notices, they can handle all the day-to-day. And there's a lot of good management companies out there that can pay the bills and they can do all the day-to-day and staff it and make sure you're open every single day of the week if you have a store that's open every day. But not every third-party management company is, I would say not all of them are focused on sales, marketing, and the reviews and customer service side of what we do. So what I would encourage you to do if you're thinking about a third-party management company, make sure they're dialed in on lead generation. They equip their managers how to sell over the phone. They know how to create appointments, because we know if we create customer visits to our store, we're going to be successful.
It's a high close rate if you get
track
them on site.
And we know 86% of the time or more, when they get to the store, they're going to rent a storage unit. We track it closely. So we're mystery shopping our managers every month. They're bonused if they score a certain percentage on their mystery shop. We're honed in on what we do with you, like you're dialed in on the SEO and the Google ads and all the things you do for us. We're constantly driving leads into our stores. The last thing I want to do is drive in a bunch of leads and our managers not be equipped to take that lead and turn it into a customer. So as a third-party management company, we're going to be dialed in on sales, marketing, reviews, customer service, all of that. Rate management, very important. As a third-party management company, you're going to want one that knows how to rate manage really well. When we're competing against the nationals, I mean, when I used to compete against the nationals, I loved it because they kept their rates high. Today, it's completely the opposite. A lot of their rates are very low. They're kind of bottom feeder rates, I think, a lot of times. And again, I'm not trying to put them down. I have a lot of good friends with national companies, but what I'm saying is you got to compete against that. So what are you doing to set yourself apart? And are you training and equipping your people how to do that? We're a training company. And I always say to my corporate team, we've got to continually train and equip our managers in what they do. And that enriches what they do. And we're going to retain our people even longer because they like the training and equipping and just being part of that culture. So the difference, I would say, is with a third-party management company, you're going to pay a management fee for that. You're going to pay for that. But we have a lot of owners that I don't want to be bogged down with the operations. I want to develop storage facilities. That's what I'm good at. I want to turn it over to you because that's what you guys do and you're really great at it. I have other owners that, hey, I feel like I've run this myself long enough, and I feel like you can run it better than we can. You're a little bit more maybe dialed into sales, marketing, reviews, customer service, and all of that. So there's an array of different ways that people come to us for third-party management. Maybe somebody wants to retire. and they're
Mhm.
looking for a
Mhm.
third-party management company, and they don't mind paying the management fee for that. And so our goal is to, again, we want to be able to take care of our customers. We want to be able to take care of our clients as well. And I think that's important.
Incredible. So much like, owner operators have their own styles and maybe have different levels of excellence in how they run their facilities. Third-party management companies have their own, are very different as well, right? Not every third-party management company is the same.
They're not,
So
they're not all created equal.
you've mentioned it multiple times here. Yeah, absolutely not created equally. And you've mentioned multiple times the manager's key, right? You even said it, like at your facility, your manager, your staff, they're the number one asset. They're the person keeping these things running. So talk me through the pros and cons of on-site manager style versus remote or even hybrid. I'm going to lump remote and hybrid together just for the sake of this comparison, just to make it easier. So why would I want on-site versus remote or hybrid, or the cons? All right, talk me through the cons of each of those,
Yep.
and I'll ask you for to start there. Pros and cons of on-site versus remote.
That's a great question. I want to make sure when you say on-site, back in the day,
Oh, that's
we had apartments back in the day, and I
yeah.
still have some apartments at some of my facilities, my older facilities. So when you say on-site, do you mean an on-site resident manager or an on-site manager running the office?
Yeah, so someone who's just in the office, not necessarily someone who's living on site. I'm glad
Okay,
you asked for clarification. Yeah, so I think this day and age, there are few and further between the folks who actually live on site.
that's
So
right.
yeah, when I meant on site manager here, I'm glad you asked. It's the person who comes into an office and there's a manager there Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. I think like the on-site manager, I'll talk about the pros of an on-site manager. I'm a big believer that you cannot take the human touch out of self-storage. And you know me well enough, Tommy. I feel like you can't. Now, in saying that, if you're operating a 185 unit facility, I get that, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But I think for the average facility, I think is around what, 47,000 square feet, kind of give or take, maybe 320 units, kind of the average. Some are bigger, some are smaller. But I think for me, I'm a big believer, and most of our facilities, by the way, are going to be anywhere from 65,000 to 100,000 square feet, just to give you an idea. Anywhere from 600 to 850 units. So they're pretty good size. On-site managers are, again, you can't take the human touch out of it. I'm a believer in on-site managers because we believe that our customers want that human touch.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all about technology, and we use technology to our advantage. That's a resource for us. But I believe if you have both, if you have a manager on site that's actually running your office day to day, and you have technology, you have the best of both worlds.
Totally.
Obviously, we
Yes.
need call centers, and because I don't want my customers to get an answering machine. So if my managers are on, if they're with the customer, that'll go right into the call center, and the call center takes that call. And we have an email right when she's done or he's done. She has an email or he has an email, and they follow up with the customer right away. So I'm a big believer in having someone there, training them, equipping them, and making sure that they're dialed in on sales, marketing, collections, all the things they do on a daily basis. Absolutely. So on-site manager, that would give you sort of an idea. Somebody that's going to run the day-to-day. They're going to rent units. They're going to make the collections. They're going to handle the security checks. They're going to make sure if somebody moves out that they got them back in the system again. If there's unrentable units, they're going to make sure they get them back online and they're rentable. So that would be somebody that you have there physically at the store. So the pros to that, as I've said, is that you have somebody there. You have the human touch. You can literally, just to give you an idea, when I do a lot of feasibility studies, and when I do a feasibility study, I put on a sweatshirt, a baseball cap, and a pair of jeans, and I mystery shop every single store in that market. And you better believe when I do that, I'm evaluating them every step of the way. And even the on-site managers, a lot of times when I walk into the store, they don't stand up and greet me, and they don't welcome me to the store and stand up and introduce themselves. That's a nice little nugget for the audience, that it sounds like most of you have on-site managers or owner operated. I would encourage you, that's the very first impression the customer will have of
Mm.
you. Another advantage to an on-site manager is we have a good number of walk-ins still. A lot of our locations have really good visibility. So we have a lot of walk-ins coming in, and a pro to that would be obviously there's somebody there. We're in the retail business, not the real estate business. We're in the retail business, and you've got to have your retail hat on, and you have to operate with the retail mentality of what you do. So there's a lot of advantages. Also, Tommy, when I walk into a store, a lot of times I have to ask for a tour. We train our managers to take our customers out on a tour. To me, that's part of the sales process. And when we take them out on a tour, we're demonstrating all of our features and benefits all along the way. They go right to the keypad and they give them the feature and benefit, the gates opening. They're giving them the features and benefits as they're walking in, the nice wide aisleways, everything's paved. It's nice and clean. It's a dust-free environment. So they're walking them out, taking them through all those features and benefits. We are the price leader in most of our markets. We've got to do that. We've got to stay on top of our game. I would encourage you to do the same. That will set you apart from your competition, believe me. So those are advantages to having somebody on site.
Love that. So speak to the advantages of remote or hybrid, right? So hybrid can be where you have someone on site, maybe just one or 2 days out of the week or several days out of the month. Maybe they oversee multiple facilities, like in a hub and spoke method, or remote. It's just like, essentially fully remote, and there's not a staff person or a manager persona that is there when someone walks up to the facility. So what are the main pros in that? And I imagine there has to be pros with the how popular it's become, right? You've got big brands like 10 Federal, Extra Space bought a big, I think it was 200 facilities a couple years ago that was fully they embraced the full remote model. So it's definitely become more popular over the last 5 years, really since COVID, since Gabfocus started.
Right.
But talk to us about that. What are the main pros of running your facility in a remote managed style?
Yeah, I think the pros to that would be obviously cost.
Mm,
You can keep your costs down. You won't have much in the way of payroll. You probably wouldn't spend maybe quite as much in marketing. So I think a lot of your operational expenses, I think, are going to be much lower. I think you can grow quicker. I think a lot of times in a remote location, the entitlement process a lot of times is maybe not as stringent. You
mm,
can go in and you can build a little quicker, a little faster. And so I think there's an advantage into scalability, I think, in that situation. I think just from a security standpoint, I mean, obviously I would encourage you to do a full automation or something like that. Either have a kiosk or make sure that you're really dialed in on mobile, because that's a kind of a mobile kiosk. And so I think that those are the kind of the pros that come to mind. I want to share a really quick story with you about this, kind of goes hand in hand with the question. Is we have a third-party management client in the Northern Ohio area, and we manage a very large location for them, and it's a great location. We've done very well there. They have a second location that's a couple miles away, but it's small. There's only 185 units. They came to us and they're like, we're not in the business. We're apartment developers, and we're struggling with getting this occupied. It's an all temperature controlled. It was a conversion of a building. And so they said, would you just consider taking this over for us and managing it? It was really not big enough for a third party management company. So we worked through everything. And I said, the only way we're going to be able to do this is if we could staff it 24 hours a day. I'm
mm,
sorry, 24 hours a week, because I
mhm.
want somebody there at least 24 hours a week. And then I can use your main location sort of as a hub calls can flow into, and if
Love
the
that.
person's not there, they can meet them over there. And so we ended up, they were okay with that. We're like, we're okay with that budget. So we kept the budget as low as we could. And the income per square foot was pretty good on that because it was an all temperature controlled. So the rates were higher. So it helped us to justify the 3 days a week. And what we did is, Tommy, we looked at the peak times of when the calls were flowing in. And so we staffed it during the peak times. And
Incredible.
we were able to take that facility from like 55% occupancy to we haven't been managing it all that long. We're in the mid 80s, but we're on our way to 90% occupancy within the next month or so. So
Incredible.
it really has paid high dividends. Having it's kind of a hybrid of having
Yeah.
somebody there, but also having our hub, which is only a couple miles away from there, and we double man that store, the big store, because it's so large, so we can afford for a manager to go over there if he or she needs to meet somebody. So I don't know if that answers your question,
I
but
think it does. I mean, I love that you're using your data to figure out when to staff, right? Or when to have someone at least available. And looking at your call records and phone logs. Incredible. It just makes sense. Sometimes these things that have profound impact are actually pretty basic things to do. You know what I mean? And so I love that y'all are doing that for the store in Ohio. So,
yeah.
uh, now give me the impact on a few things, right? So like customer service, right? You mentioned for on-site managers, you can invite them in, open the door for them, invite them on a tour. And I'm seeing lots of great comments of, providing them water and these refreshments. And I love all these things. How can you provide great customer service in lieu of a great manager on site? Like when you have a remote, or in your situation, more of a hub and spoke model, how can you still uphold that high level of customer service excellence?
That's a really good question because when you're going to have a remote location, and those of you that have a remote location, this is with all due respect, I'm sure you're operating it very well. I what I find, Tommy, because I mystery shop a lot of locations through feasibility studies, is some of the ones that are fully automated, some of them are dialed in and they do a really good
Mm,
job. And what I mean by that is if for some reason I can't get through the gate for whatever reason, there's a phone number posted. I can call and literally get a hold of somebody,
incredible.
right? And right away, they're like, oh, let me let you through the gate. And they can literally open the gate for me, right? So I think having somebody available that they can reach right away, that's customer service in a fully automated facility, in my opinion,
Love
right?
that.
Second,
Yeah.
secondly, a lot of times when I drive in, a lot of times if they don't, maybe they don't even have a gate or whatever. When I drive in, if it's got to be really well maintained. So they've got to have their systems dialed in. If they're going to operate this thing remotely, they've got to have somebody coming in every day, checking, doing security checks, what's available, what's not available. Has somebody moved out? Did somebody hit my building? Did somebody trash the place? Is it clean? Is it, having a very clean location that's remotely run, that's automated, very important. Customer service all the way. All proper signage, making sure that there's readable signage. They know exactly what to do when they get there. If they're going to rent a unit online, they better know exactly how to do that through their phone or through a kiosk. And those instructions should be there. I see some automated facilities that they literally have a phone booth, literally where they could pick up a phone and call a call center.
Wow.
And the call center will walk them through the rental. So
Incredible.
all those kinds of things I think are invaluable. And I think those are customer service kind of things.
Amazing. So what I'm hearing is remote or manager there is not an excuse to not have customer service. You can still perform a lot of those functions. You just have to be more creative. When there's not a person on site. I love that. So you mentioned sales and marketing a few times. Talk to us about the core differences of having a manager there versus remote when it comes to sales and marketing.
Yeah, that's a good question. Having somebody on site, and you've heard me talk about, we're a training company. So we're
Yes.
constantly training and equipping. Sales is a big part of what we train on. There's what we call 5 steps to selling. And we train our managers on those steps of selling. So when they're answering the phone, they're taking that customer through those 5 steps to selling. And then they're making an invitation to the store. So my whole thing with my team, Tommy, is that have you earned the right to make the appointment? Have you greeted the
Mm,
customer warm and friendly? Are you using the customer's name throughout the presentation? Did you get the full name and phone number so you can follow up? That's part of lead generation, right? And then the second step is the inquiry. Are you asking all the right questions? about what they're storing. How soon will you need it? Have you ever rented storage before? All those kinds of questions you're
Love
asking,
all of this.
and you're
Yeah.
taking notes all along the way. And now you're starting to build a rapport with the customer. They're starting to look at you as kind of the storage expert because you're asking a lot of good questions.
Yeah.
Right. And then the third part of that would be what I call building value. Building value is it's time to let yourself shine. You know, share 5 or 6 features and benefits of your location that set you apart from everybody else.
Mm.
And even if your competitors have it, a lot of times they're not sharing it. So when we're sharing those features and benefits, a lot of times they're hearing it for the first time. And all of a sudden, our customers are thinking, wow, I didn't know I needed to look for these things when using self-storage. Now we're starting to earn the right to set the appointment. So the next step would be the invitation, which is setting the appointment. We've already got their first name, last name, we've got their phone number, we've greeted, we've inquired, we've built value, and now we're setting the appointment. And in setting the appointment, we make sure we're dialed in on a day and time. We don't just leave it loosey-goosey. Okay, Mr. Jones, it sounds like this afternoon around 4 o'clock would work for you. I'll look forward to meeting you around 4 o'clock. Do you have good directions how to get here? We like to make sure our customers have clear directions because they're probably going to pass 3 of our competitors on the way to our store.
Yes.
Tommy, when I started, we had 1 to 2 competitors. Now we have like 8 or 9 competitors in our market. So we want to make sure they have clear, precise directions. You know why? Because a lot of times we'll have somebody pop in our store, a walk-in. They thought they were at the competitor.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
No, they didn't have directions. But you know what? They didn't leave our store without renting a storage unit. We just don't want the same thing to happen to us.
Incredible. I love that.
So then the last step in that is they come for the appointment, and then we don't assume the rental. We demonstrate all along the way. We take them on a tour. And then when we get to the unit that we can tell by their expression, the 10 by 15, we can tell that that's the size they need. Mr. Jones, actually unit number 415 will be your unit. It'll just take us a few minutes to do the paperwork. Now he's identified that this is going to be my unit. I know where it's at. And it's only going to take us a few minutes to do the paperwork. So we've confirmed the rental. We don't assume it or ask. We just assume they're going to rent the unit right there and then.
Wow. In this on-site versus remote kind of universe here, some of the things that bother me when I do like a loose version of mystery shopping, right? So usually it's like I have a client and they just want to check out what's going on, right? And so usually it's more of like an online reputation thing, right? And a little bit of a lot of the sales and marketing piece. And so we're just kind of scoping it out. And sometimes I'll see Google reviews where there's like a picture of a mattress or a picture of something that you don't want unsightly, right? On or full dumpster, those kinds of things, right? So like, how do you deal with facility upkeep and maintenance? Again, even when you have a manager, what's the process? And then remote, how do you deal with those things when you have a remotely managed property?
Yeah, good question. We have some locations that have dumpsters. I'm not a big proponent of that. We've kind of weeded out most of them because people abuse them. So what we find is when you don't have a dumpster on site, sometimes people will just leave things either in the aisleway or they'll try to find an empty unit. Even though we've got most of our units locked, they might try to find an empty unit somewhere and put trash in there or whatever. We're very on top of that. Our security checks that we do every single day, if we see a lock has been removed, by the way we open that unit, we see, is that an abandoned unit or is there anything in that unit? Did somebody move out? So that's our inventory. And we let our managers know that you have got to stay on top of your inventory every single day because we've got to get that unit back online to rent. So in terms of managing that process, if people like leave things or whatever, we have a lot of junk removal businesses that we work with.
Love that.
We're getting things moved out quickly, or we do a lot of online auctions. Sometimes our auctions, we can literally sometimes maybe pair something up if it's got a little bit of value, and somebody will buy it at auction and just take it with them when they go. So managing that process is going to be key. And our managers, I think, are really on top of that. We're very much of a stickler on collections, and we track our collections very closely. And our managers have goals in the collection side of what we do. So we look at the key performance indicators. Collections is one of them, and we try to stay on top of that as best we can.
Love that. That makes all the sense in the world. So I did see a question here since we're in this topic of remote versus on-site. Eve asked, I think, a really sharp question. What is the best way to mitigate churn or tension with tenants when a facility is switching over to on-site manage from on-site managed to remote only managed? So let's say facility gets taken over, used to have a manager. I used to, call, talk to George, talk to Bobby, talk to Eve. That presence is being removed. How do I still maintain high levels of customer service and ultimately prevent churn so I don't miss out on revenue? Eve, great question.
That's a really good question, because your customers have been used to it for so long, having somebody there, somebody that they can talk with, identify with, answer their questions. I'm all about communication. I mean, I think if you're going to switch over, it's all about, at that point, I would literally want to make a phone. I would want my management staff to make phone calls. Also send out letters, but not only letters, but I would also want that personal touch, because you can't communicate enough when you're making a transition. That's a pretty drastic transition. And if you're making a transition like that, it's got to be a combination of letters, phone calls, making sure everybody's dialed into what this new method of managing looks like. And then having someplace they can call and get a hold of somebody. So if you're gonna transition like that, and maybe you have a hub or a central location, make sure that you have your systems dialed, and they can get a hold of a live person. If they're having a problem, they forgot their gate code or whatever, they've got to be able to get a hold of somebody right away. Or they're overlocked. Maybe they're overlocked because they haven't made their payment. They come out, there's nobody there where they can make their payment. They're used to just making their payment and getting their lock taken off. They can't do that anymore. So you've got to have systems for that, and methods of rectifying that pretty quickly.
Yeah, Eve, great question there, friend. So speak to us a little bit about, as an owner, as someone who owns, a handful of facilities. I'm not big time yet. How should I be evaluating things like technology, staffing needs, customer service, right? When I'm evaluating between third-party managed versus like I'm going to do this myself, regardless of manager or remote style. But do I hire, do I hire Advantage? Do I hire Extra Space? Do I hire a more boutique, more hands-on management company, or do I run this myself? How does technology play into all of this? How does customer service play into what should my expectations be, as I guess is the real question that I'm asking, right? So like, what should my expectations be on technology, staffing needs, customer service, those main things?
Good question. You can tell I'm all about learn. Knowledge is so important. Attending conferences, attending Gabfocus, just you can't get enough knowledge. It's so important. I think also mystery shopping on a regular basis, your competition, and knowing what your competition has in the way of technology. If your competition is far light years ahead of you in technology, then you need to evaluate, are we leaving opportunities on the table? Are we making it as easy as we possibly can for our customers? For us, because our facilities are pretty good size, we think that the combination of having somebody there on site and using technology is a beautiful thing. It's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yes.
So we're always looking, what's the most convenient way for our customers to rent a storage unit? And that could be online. We do online rentals. We do online payments. We do online reservations. I mean, you've really helped us, Tommy, with the online rentals part of it. That's something, honestly, we weren't getting a lot of until we moved over to StoragePug. And now we're getting the online rentals. And it's a beautiful thing because we're using a combination of kind of everything. I believe that, again, evaluate your market, see where your market's at, and figure out ways that you can set yourself apart. And it might be through technology.
Mm,
Maybe you have it stacked. Maybe you're an owner operator and you feel like you've got that part of it pretty dialed. Look at the technology side of it and let that work to your advantage. Um, as I said, we're the price leader in most of our markets. It's because of our people, number one, and our technology, which is part of what you do for us, Tommy. So I think it's a combination of things, but know your market and how you stack up.
mm, I love that. So next, I'm going to take you through the lightning round. So this is about finding the right fit. So this is fast, off the dome, right? 10 seconds is what I'll give you per question. So let's start with the first one. What are the signs that you may need to change your management or operation style? I know that's loaded, but 10 seconds. Go.
Your occupancy is dropping. You're giving away too much. Your rates are dropping. You're starting to find that your net operating income is falling because your revenue is falling. Your net operating income is falling. So that would be some signs that that you need to make some changes.
I love that. How do different management styles play out for hands-off owners?
I would say that you've got to be, as I've said, you've got to be dialed into systems. You've got to stay on top of your business. You've got to visit the location daily, and you've got to make it as convenient as you possibly can for your customers. It's all about customer service.
Mm. What about if I want to be more involved, but I still might want third-party management? How can I play nice with my third-party management company?
Set the expectation up front. Let the third party management company know how involved you want to be. You know, let them know you want profit and loss statements every month. You want occupancy reports every month. You want access to the management software. So complete transparency. Just let them know how much you want to be involved.
Love that. Is management style different if I own one or two facilities versus if I own a dozen facilities or even more?
I think so. I think with one or two, you can be a little bit more hands-on.
Mm.
When you start to scale, then you've got to have really good people and really good systems in place.
Love that. Speaking of scales and systems in place, what traits should I be looking for as I'm interviewing third-party vendors, managers, software, website marketing,
Yeah.
mystery shopping, all the vendors that I have to write checks to? What traits should I be looking out for, and what are red flags that I should definitely look out for?
If you're looking for a third-party management company, make sure that they have experience. Number one, they've been in the business for a long time. Make sure that they're sales savvy, marketing savvy, operational savvy. Make sure they're all about the customer, and make sure that they're dialed in on how to hire and how to equip and train their people. It's training, training, training. So that would be what I would advise you to do in a quick 10-second, answer.
Love that. What about red flags? What are things that would scare you away from a third party?
They're not returning your phone calls. They're hard to reach. It takes them a long time to get back with you. We have a third-party management client that uses another third-party management company. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but they're like, when we ask you guys something, you get back to us right away. We're not getting that on the other side.
Makes a big difference. And if you're in the sales phase, if you're courting and if they don't answer you during the sales process, they're very much not going to answer you after they've closed the deal. And that's a pretty big deal if you're an owner. You've already mentioned some tips for transitioning from on-site management to remote, but what if it's the other way around? What are some other tips for transitioning into a different management style?
I would just say you'd have to ask yourself why. What's the why behind
Mm.
the transition? What is it that's lacking? Again, knowing, some of the things maybe that's faltering in your operations, make sure you understand the reason why you want to make that change. And then is it gonna benefit your location, by making the change? I think that's just a question you have to ask yourself.
Incredible. Last one. How do you audit or keep up with your management or operations? You mentioned some things earlier, occupancy dropping, rates dropping, those kinds of things. But if I have a third-party management company in place, how can I audit and how can I keep up with to know if they're doing a good job?
I think you need to audit, obviously, the revenue, the occupancy. Are they increasing the net operating income? Are they increasing the real estate value through the net operating income? What do the reviews look like? Am I looking at their reviews online? If they're managing
Mm,
for me, I want to make sure that they're dialed in on reviews. Are they taking care of my customers? I would shop them, mystery shop them. I encourage my owners to mystery shop my managers.
love
That's
that.
something that we invite them to do. So making sure that you, again, even though you've turned it over, still have some oversight, I think is important.
Incredible. Well, speaking of reviews, Allison asked, thank you for the participating in the lightning round there. But Allison had a question that I thought was a good segue. So, what are techniques that we can use to incentivize our managers to go out there and get more Google reviews?
That's a great question. We have a monthly newsletter that we put out every single month. My daughter actually puts out the monthly newsletter. We recognize all of our top performers. We recognize all of our stores and individuals that hit their storage goal for the month,
Very
collections
cool.
goal for the month. They hit their mystery shop for the month, 90% or greater, their retail sales goal for the month. And by the way, they're bonused and incentivized in all those areas. And then we also recognize every store, or every individual and store for 2 5-star Google reviews every single month. We
Mm,
recognize them on the newsletter. And they like that. Our managers love the bonuses that we give them,
of
but they
course.
like recognition just as much.
Yeah.
They're recognizing them.
I think everyone loves that feel good feeling when you see your name called out in a very positive way, right? Especially if it's a like Miss Bobby, who we talked about in Lobby Talk in Laurel, Mississippi, with 282 reviews in a very small town, and so many of those reviews call out Bobby by name, which is Chef's Kiss, right? So,
Yeah.
Allison, I think I would. The only thing I'd add to that is come up with a bonus program that feels fair, but also feels like worthy of getting, if that makes sense, right? So, like for example, a 20, let's say you pay $20 per 5-star review, right? $20 is not a lot of money. It's not like a tiny amount of money, but like I'm not gonna like trip over something to pick up 20. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? Like $20 is decent. But what if you bundled it and said, you know what? $200 for every 10 reviews. The math is the same. But now the goal is no longer just $20, which is just like two coffees. It's
And,
$200, which is groceries. And I think that so how you position or pitch the compensation does impact. And so some of the stores, like for example, the Spacebox brand, and Brad, I would love to hear the way y'all do it if you could share. But I know the way Spacebox does it is they'll do quarterly or every few quarters, they'll do a company-wide competition. Whichever store gets the most reviews with the minimum, I think it's like minimum of 50. You have to get minimum 50 reviews. But whichever store gets the most reviews gets like a $1,500 store bonus that goes
wow.
to the managers who are involved there. And so again, the math works out, right? The math works out to 10, 15, $20 a review, but I made $1,500 from this which feels a lot more incentivizing. So that's one thing that Spacebox management does. Brad, what do you all do at Advantage? Do you have, what's your incentive program or bonus program for reviews?
In full transparency, I pushed for some of the things you were talking about, and we did a contest.
Oh,
We had
okay.
we had certain stores, competing against other stores, and what happened was our Google flagged our review. It was like there were so many coming
There
in,
was somebody coming in.
they flagged them. It was my idea, and everybody came down on me in a, kind of a funny way. We're like, we don't want these reviews flagged. So probably my fault. I really need to pick back up on incentivizing them in some way. Right now, it's more recognition.
I
And I
love
was
that.
visiting one of
Yes.
my stores a few weeks ago in Maryland, and I was just sitting there with the manager. It touched me because she was doing a rental, and we have a little pad on the where a barcode right on the desk. And she said, would you mind giving me a review? You can just put your phone here and on the barcode, and you can give me a 5-star review right here. If you like the service I gave you, I'll get recognized amongst my peers and my management on the monthly newsletter every month. So she's getting a lot of reviews through that. But I do believe you can incentivize. In all full transparency, we have not perfected that yet. So
We're working on it. Hey, it's okay. Y'all, whatever you're doing is working though. Your reviews in your markets, stellar, chef's kiss. Um, Love this. So Gary had a question here, and then we'll go into question of the week as we wrap up today. Entitlement. So I don't know what the actual question is, Gary, but I'm going to ask it. I'm going to ask what I think you're asking, which is like the entitlement process. Just like as an independent owner operator, what are the landmines that I'm watching out for? Is this something that I can hire someone to do for me? Do I need to go like put on my bootstraps and go out there and go talk to the local council committee members? Like what's, just high level, what's the process? And I imagine it's different in Columbus than in Knoxville. But give us the high level.
That's a super good question because it's sort of different in every municipality. I think that locations that are a little bit more built out, a little bit more developed, they're going to have probably a little bit more of a sophisticated entitlement process.
Mm, yep.
I've gone through entitlements where, I have architectural review requirements. I have to go through 6 or 8 meetings. I've got to have public meetings with the neighbors in the area that come to the public meeting. And then I have other locations where maybe I'm in a township. I'm not in the city limits. And in the township, it's typically a little bit easier process because you're not dealing with a city municipality. You're working with the county. And those entitlements can be a lot smoother. I've had entitlements where it's taken me 2 years to get it entitled. I've gone through entitlements where it's taken me 6 months. So,
Incredible.
and
Yeah.
everything in between. So.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Gary, hopefully that's helpful, my friend. All right, Brad. Question of the week I've got for you is what are the three most important things to consider when choosing the right management fit for your business? I know we talked about so many cool things today, but I want you to pick three. Let's leave the audience with the three most important things to consider when you're deciding on which management system you should be using for your storage business.
Yeah, I would say that if you're looking for, say, a third-party management company, for example, as I said earlier, make sure they have really vast experience in self-storage. Make sure that you really connect with them, that you communicate well with them, they communicate well with you, that they're very dialed in on, as I've said before, and I keep harping on this, they're very dialed in, not only on the operational side of things, but they're very dialed in on sales, marketing, customer service, rate management. All of those things are going to be really critical for a good match for you.
Incredible. Yeah. And I like what you said earlier. Like you got to ask like why do you want to do this, right? Why is this, what do I want out of this? What are your goals and are you communicative of your expectations and what you care about? It's okay to want to be hands-on and it's okay to want to
Yeah,
be hands-off. Like you
absolutely.
said, right? Like if you're good at developing and you want to go do all of that, go do it. Right. But if you want to be in the weeds and like review every call, that's okay too. There's no right or wrong, but you just have to be very upfront and very communicative about your desires.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that, Tommy.
Yeah. Brad, how does someone find you if they would like to learn more about you? Maybe they want to learn more about how you can help them, or just want to chat storage because you have 36 years of experience.
Yeah.
What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is brad@ACM Storage. That's Advantage Consulting Management, brad@acmstorage.com. Feel free to drop me an email. My mobile number is 678-491-7984. Feel free to reach out to me if you have a question or anything I can help you with. Be glad to help you.
Love that. Well, thank you for sharing, Brad. Always love to see your beautiful face, and always love to have you. So, for those who are in the audience still, this show will be uploaded to YouTube. It'll be uploaded to wherever you get your podcasts, and you can rewatch the entire session, beginning to end, and we'll catch the show notes that we put there as well. But then next month we've got the one and only Joe. Doherty from the SSA, Chief Legal Counsel. We're going to do our annual legal episode. I just launched the poll here. Brad, you're getting great reviews
Thank you.
early on. But y'all, if you have legal questions, email them to gabfocus@storagepug.com. Or if you're still in the poll here, put your questions in the poll. This is your annual hour with our legal friends. And this year we're bringing on Joe. Lots of legal updates in California, Minnesota, Florida, lots of things floating around, Georgia as well. So I imagine we're going to have a very busy session. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it in an hour, but we will do our best. So y'all, thank you for having us. We'll see y'all in October. And again, thank you again, Melissa. It was sad to miss today's session. She was stoked to hang out with Brad and myself, but we'll see her next month. Y'all, much love. Brad, thank you again for all your time and
Thank
expertise.
you, everybody. Thank you, Tommy, for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Goodbye.